In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Crypto fam, it is your boys, CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. We've got a couple special guests in the house tonight. We've got MrZombie and MineUr.Biz. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good, how are you?
Can't complain. We had fun tonight, and I'm relaxed.
Well, I'll tell you what, my night started out right now with me not being able to recite what I say every time we open up the stream was, it's your boy, CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. But yeah, just we're going to start off like that, and we'll act like that never happened, right, Miguel?
Well, you're going to act like you forgot the whole line of question everything, trust nothing. Welcome to Debate Crypto. You took 3 days off and just forgot the intro. 3 days off and forget everything.
Literally the intro just gone, tossed out. But here we are. We're going to have some fun this evening. Tonight, Miguel, tell the people what's on the podium.
The death of Ethereum is on the podium.
No. There can be no death. The girl will not die. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to find out. We'll tell you guys, it's going to be educational for sure. So strap in. We're going to have some fun. We're going to question some narratives, as we always do with Debate Crypto. But the reason that we've got MrZombie and MineUr.Biz on here is because they understand the backside of what's happening here. And so we're going to break it down. We're going to make it as simple as possible. Break it down like you're in kindergarten. It is not to bring it down for anyone but myself. I need the help. So you guys I know everybody else gets it, but I need the help. So we're going to have fun with that. Make sure that you guys smash the likes. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the guests. They both have their information down below the video. There's a reason that's down there. There's a reason that they took time out of their day-to-day to support the channel. So make sure you guys turn around and support them. We'd appreciate it. Also, if you didn't know, now you know, Danger Close Alpha. Make sure you guys are in the Discord. We just got off the phone with the artist a little bit earlier this evening. We got some good news coming this week. So I won't give an exact day just because sometimes that can be a little finicky, but we got some really good news. And just remember that stimulus drop of 10,000 free, that's right, I said free NFTs, the stimulus drop is going to be coming soon, maybe even sooner than you thought. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Before we dive into it real quick, let me just show the markets. Yeah. Well, you know what? No, we don't need to get in the markets. The markets have been down. You guys know what's going on with that. Let's dive in. Let's get into it. All right. So let me pull this up here right quick. I'm going to give a quick little explanation of what's going on. And then actually, like I said, we're going to break it down for the group. So Ethereum, they were calling it ETH 2.0. That has changed to simplify and not confuse and not give, hackers an attack vector, et cetera, just so that you know, if we say ETH 2.0 or we say an upgrade or we say the merge, that we're talking about the same idea. So we're going to go through this image here in just a minute. But before we do, just want to kind of show you what this looks like as a step-by-step roadmap for the development and delivery of ETH 2.0. So the proof of work main chain is the part that exists today, the current Ethereum mainnet. In ETH 2.0 system, this continues to operate pretty much as it does today. Everything below is new. So we'll talk about that in just a second. The beacon chain is currently under development and will be the first component to be delivered. And then the shard chains are next, and they are where scalability will come from. Initially, the shard chains will simply aggregate transactions and come to consensus on the ordering. Without executing them, this will be a good test of the system's infrastructure and security. And then the virtual machine layer is the final big component of ETH 2.0 system, and it will provide for the execution of contracts and transactions. Let me pull this up, make sure can you guys see that okay?
That's crisp, yeah. That's great.
Okay, cool. So Serge, why don't you kick it off for us? Take us through like Miguel and I are in kindergarten and we're totally lost. What does this chart show us?
Okay, so the POW main chain is the chain that we have right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beacon chain is the proof of stake chain. So eventually what's going to be happening is most of the transactions will be taking place on Beacon chain and then get aggregated over to the main chain for, safekeeping and all that other fun stuff.
Okay.
And then after they have beacon chain nailed down, they're going to do sharding, which is going to allow them to split off essentially side chains to process those transactions and update the beacon chain, which will then update the main chain, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Basically, the Ethereum is entering the multiverse just like Marvel has, and starting to spread into different chains all over the place.
Oh, geez. Is that how you? So Seth, MineUr.Biz, is that how you? Excuse me. I know what he just said is correct, but is that kind of how you understand what this looks like and what's going on?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Serge, he summarized it very well, and the diagram I think really helps for me at least also to be able to conceptualize very simply where we are today versus what the proposed future looks like for Ethereum.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of the breakdown, guys. You have the PO work main chain, which is the anchor chain, the beacon chain. So the proof of work main chain, gentlemen, is what we have right now. Correct?
Yes, correct.
The beacon chain is the proof of stake. When that comes into play, that's the first part of the proof of stake, correct?
Yes, that is the beacon chain that they're testing right now. So that's the one that they're proposing in August.
Okay. And then the shard chains, as I understood it, it's going to be literally 64 different blockchains that are basically going to branch off of, which is going to do what? What is that going to do?
So if I can just really quickly give a spoiler alert from earlier on in the show, right? Oh, Ethereum's going to die. Nope, Ethereum's not going to die. It's going to multiply.
Let's go.
That's the roadmap. It's not going to die. It's going to multiply. And thank computing, we're in love with octets, which is why you have like 32 and 64 and 128, etc. It's like just this thing in computing that we think is really important. They could have just as easily designated 50 or 100 of them, but for design and for mathematical efficiency, 64 made more sense, I think. Okay. And then if there's a need to double it, it will double to 128 because we've got people that are actual systems engineers and designers trying to make this stuff, and they're mired in all that classical training within computing. So that's why 64. But yeah, sharding proposes to be a year from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, possibly outside max, or maybe even longer, depending on how long it takes for Beacon Chain to fully show its stability. It promises to be at that point what current sidechain scaling solutions like Avalanche with its subnets and Polygon with its supernets are already delivering today.
Okay, so that's where the death comes, right? Is Ethereum being left behind in the dust? Are they going to become the Sears and Toys R Us of the blockchains and be left behind because there's other companies coming in a lot hotter, a lot faster?
Well, ironically, they're going to be the last EVM style chain to go proof of stake. If you can fathom that. Like, sadly, that's the absolute state of things right now. There are already plasma chains and proof of stake chains that exist right now that are doing horizontal scaling, which is what sharding is, on paper.
Let me ask this. Okay. I'm a big ETH maxi. I wouldn't call myself actually an ETH maxi, but I am the majority of my portfolio. It's no secret to anybody is ETH. I believe in ETH. There's so much that is built on ETH, NFTs on ETH. I think it's just going to continue to grow. Therefore, I believe in its future. But tell me, I've been frustrated. People have been frustrated. I don't understand simply why this is such a big deal. Why is this so actually each of you, if you could kind of give me a little piece part here, tell me, Zombie, I'll start off with you, brother. Why is moving from proof of work, which is the mining consent, the system that it is right now, moving over to proof of stake? Why is that such a big deal? I don't truly understand.
Environmental friendliness, I think, is the largest and biggest factor in this case.
Like hold on a second. Like legitimately, like their environment, like they're worried about saving the trees, like that kind of environment.
I mean, so if you're not environmentally friendly, if you're not proof of stake, people are gonna, bash on you and hate on you. The proof of stake allows for faster transaction speeds because you're not relying on hardware to do this stuff. It's all software, right?
Okay.
I think MineUr.Biz might have a better explanation for this because mine is like a very base level.
That's okay. What do you got, Seth?
Yeah, Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think, and I think that Serge is totally right in the respect that like the ESG crowd and the legislators and politicians in particular, the folks who were previously outside of crypto looking in and who are ironically about to make all these rules about how crypto is going to be moving into the future. Their very first talking point is always one of energy conservation and sort of environmental friendliness. It's been a platform for a lot of politicians and then for some artists too, saying, I won't do NFTs because every NFT I mint is going to like, it's the equivalent of burning down, this square footage of the rainforest. And it's like, oh, okay, we're not going to make any headway in adoption if that's the most popular narrative. Mm-hmm. So that's real, right? Perception is reality. And so that's real. That's a real social and sort of cultural force that any of us who are interested in adoption of any cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, we're all going to have to contend with that moving forward. Like that's our reality now. As far as Ethereum, boiling the oceans due to proof of work mining, no, the oceans I'm happy to report are still intact. They have not completely boiled off. We haven't killed, every rare species of deep sea animal or like
for now.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Right? Yeah. So, but we haven't done that, and the scale of net hash for Ethereum hasn't raced up to the point that we look like we're likely to. So like for my part, I'm doubtful that we're going to have that particular problem. I think we have other problems that we run into before we have a genuine sort of ecological problem that can be directly attributed to crypto. And I think we're already seeing that in the scale wars. Like we've been seeing that. Ethereum doesn't scale with its current paradigm, but it's not entirely owing to proof of work. Proof of work has some inefficiencies, but blockchains in general have some inefficiencies if you want them to be fully permissionless, decentralized, and censorship resistant. If you want them to be fully permissionless, decentralized, and censorship resistant, then it's an append-only database. Right?
What do you mean by that?
It means that you can't delete, you can't edit in the previous history, you can only add. Okay. That's what a blockchain is.
Yep.
And so that being the case, we need confirmations. And those confirmations need to be rigorously contended between parties that do not agree with each other or like each other.
Okay.
That makes sense there? Yeah. So proof of work has helped to fill that requirement because it's like, all right, this is contentious. Instead of there being, like you often hear it called like, oh, they're all doing complex math problems to help write new blocks. Now, technically, they're doing complex mathematical guesses to guess what the nonce is, to guess what the correct number is, the correct solution that's to a math problem somebody else did. I'm splitting hairs, but
yeah.
But that's why everybody mines. And why pooled mining is so powerful and all the rest. But like it fits the requirement because you can fire up a mining rig in Iran.
Okay.
Nobody can tell you not to. You can fire up a mining rig in Cuba. Nobody can tell you not to. You can fire up a mining rig right in Washington, D.C. in a senator's office. And if they can't detect that you did it, they can't stop you, right? Like you can mine from anywhere. And political affiliation doesn't matter. Personal, political preference or worldview, immaterial. The network just does not care. Yeah. It just takes your input and it uses it to form consensus. So yeah, proof of work is not actually the slowest part of that. Even using a narrowly defined quorum of proof of stake validators still takes time to achieve consensus. And if you want it to be as permissionless as possible and as censorship resistant as possible, then it's a feature for that to be a little bit contentious and for anybody to participate, but especially people who do not agree with each other on any other world topic, mm-hmm. or have any incentive to help each other in any other way.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so that's why blockchains just take time. There are hard limits to what certain kinds of blockchains can write to an append-only ledger, whether they're proof of stake or proof of work.
No, that was greatly explained. Miguel, when you see the ETH 2.0, you see a lot of the hype, you see the problems, we see all of these news headlines. The first thing that Serge said, the first thing that Zombie said was like, oh, to save the world, right? To save the trees, to save the oceans, whatever the case may be. And you know, a lot of you that follow us for any amount of time know that we're being a little bit sarcastic, but like the answer was real. That was a real answer. What do you feel, Miguel? Is this another narrative that we're seeing, or are we actually trying to make a change here?
So it's a little bit of both, and I do agree, right? So it's a little bit of both. We saw what happened with the FUD last year with Bitcoin, that Bitcoin was destroying the environment, and then slowly they kind of eased off of that and started taking back that that's not really true, and that Bitcoin is actually using a lot more greener energy, and you know, incentivizing the companies to go green and be the more what's the word, conservative energy wise for the miners. That way you make more money, so it helps. But so there's nothing wrong with that. Being green and helping the environment is great, but I think the biggest push for proof of stake is not because of that. I think the biggest push for proof of stake is because there is this narrative, there's this mentality that people think once we go into proof of stake, gas fees for Ethereum are going to disappear and we're going to go into like the pennies, right? And that's not real. That's not going to happen. But everyone's thinking Ethereum 2.0, proof of stake, goodbye gas fees. We're going to be good to go with Ethereum. And that's what everyone is really pushing for. But people don't really understand that that's not going to be the reality.
So moving the word from basically gas fees to tipping is not actually changing what's happening here. Gentlemen, Zombie, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I had a lot of pushback when EIP 1559 was being proposed. I joined a quorum of proof of work miners that basically, like, we did some saber rattling against the ETH core devs, and we coordinated. And a few of us did a couple of live streams where we're like, "Hey, ETH core devs, do you want to see what happens? Like, we're nobodies, right? On YouTube, just some guys that stream about this stuff. But do you want to see what happens when we form a narrative? Because we'll just take our hash rate and go elsewhere. How would you like to have no security? Because we might be able to make that happen.
You hated the move to EIP 15. You hated the improvement, the change on EIP 1559.
Well, EIP 1559 wasn't an improvement. We promised the entire community. We promised everybody who was using Ethereum on the user experience side. We promised everyone up, down, left, right, center. There is no way to get it into people's heads that EIP 1559 was not actually going to decrease gas fees, and it didn't. There was a brief blip in which it did, and then everything rose right back up. And it wasn't because of miners, it was because of flash bots. People want to have their priorities in the transaction mempool, and that comes from the degens. That comes from the degens, the AMMs, the DEXs, the whales, people who have a massive financial incentive to get their transactions in faster. Miners don't have an incentive to get transactions in faster. They do have incentive to tell you, like, hey, if you want to grease the wheels, you know, I'll do that for you. Some pools can do that. But it's the people who have, you know, 8, 9 figures at stake in a trade. Like, if you're that person that's got an 8-figure trade at stake right now, and you know that the difference between winning that trade, coming out on top of that 8-figure trade with a potential 7-figure upside, means getting in this block and not getting edged out to the next block, how much would you pay? If you know that your payout is 7 figures, how much would you pay?
A large,
people are going to pay hundreds of dollars in gas fees with no sweat off their back, right?
Right. You might literally pay a low 7-figure fee to get a mid 7-figure payout, right? Like fall down 7 times, get up 8. That's just how warriors live, right? And these degen traders, they're warriors, bro. Like, that's how they fight. They throw as much money as they have to make a problem go away. What does that do to retail? Retail says, well, gas fees are high. Those damn miners. And then the ETH core devs, like, they propagate that narrative. Those damn miners, they're making the fees go up.
So once again, we're looking at the crypto, just the crypto mantra, and spinning it into a narrative, just like it seems like everything else that we see. It's like, hey, what kind of a headline can we pull off of this? Because what we really want to happen is this. So with that being said, Serge, do you think that this move to proof of stake is a good move? And if so, why?
I think that it'll help get us ready for sharding, which will be the big change for us. I wouldn't expect to see much lower gas fees on Beacon Chain than we currently see right now. What we should be doing is pushing on developers and these NFT collections and these people that are designing these smart contracts to make them more efficient. There are ways to reduce gas fees within those contracts themselves. Whether we design,
can you give me an example?
Look at ERC 721, right? The ERC 721A contract is cheaper for minting. And then I mentioned somebody before to you guys that took that 721A contract and then further refined it, making the NFT mints on mint day between $10 to $15 when the next closest project was I think it was like 30 to 40 in gas at the same time. So you can refine these smart contracts even further. And that's, I think, where the community should be directing their anger, not at the Ethereum devs, because that's like, I can't think up of a great comparison right now, but that's like being mad at the wrong person, right? They've established Ethereum, and these contracts that are not efficient are the ones to blame for these gas fees because they're doing multiple transactions in one transaction when you mint or when you transfer tokens or whatever else. And that's all adding to the load for the miners who then have to charge more because they are processing more transactions at that point.
That makes
and
a lot of
guys,
sense.
I just want to clarify for everybody, when he means refining, he means cleaning up the code, right? He means making the code more efficient to work better. Think of it the same way as when the first cars were made, they didn't get very far, right? They weren't very efficient with gas. The engines got better. They were more efficient. Cars can travel a lot farther now before having to refuel their entire tank. That's the same exact concept with these smart contracts. The code itself, a lot of stuff looks amazing on the outside, but when you start digging in, it's duct tape and patches and rubber ducks and all kinds of stuff and paper clips holding these smart contracts together and making things happen. But just most people don't see the behind the scenes.
You're right. That first generation of automobiles wasn't very good with gas because they were all electric. And the second generation was even worse with gas because they were literally designed to run on waste vegetable oil. But wrong night. I know. Got to come back another night.
You got to come back on Wednesday. We got to come back on Wednesday for that
Wednesday conversation.
I was going to say, it's like when you're going camping and you pack way too much stuff, right? And then you're bringing stuff back. Like that's the same concept with these smart contracts is they're processing too many transactions instead of optimizing the way that they do that. And it's just too much luggage to, move around. And at that point, you're wasting gas.
Seth, I see you shaking your head, smiling. Do you agree with kind of what's being said here, or do you kind of have a different view on it?
Nah, man, Zombie's preaching. I am nodding. Keep it going because you're right. Unoptimized code causes way more damage than miners and the Ethereum core devs themselves. Though I do think they're their own worst enemies in a lot of cases.
So it's a lack of understanding is what it is. Because if you asked me, as long as I've been in crypto, hey, what's actually causing the issues and who's to blame? I genuinely, to be fair, would not have been able to give you a good explanation for that. So I love the fact that you guys were able to dumb that down for me and just make it simple. Like, hey, here's what it is. And here's one of the problems. Miguel, you're about to chime in.
Yeah, what I was going to say is where this conversation needs to go is where does this put Ethereum compared to the rest of the cryptos that are out there already that are seeing what Ethereum, because Ethereum was built with a foundational problem of scaling, right? So it's hard for when you have a house with a problem in the foundation, right? That people live inside this house and people need to keep coming and going out of this house for you to suspend this house, fix the foundation, and still have people coming in and out. And that's what Ethereum is doing, right? Ethereum can't stop production, pull down the code, fix its foundational problem, and then push it back up because there's an entire economy running on Bitcoin, DeFi, NFTs, all this kind of stuff. So with that being said, with that foundational problem already being there, Cardano was a perfect example. Charles Hoskin said, hey, I'm leaving this project. I see the flaws. I'm going to go create something from scratch that's already going to be better when it grows to that scale from the beginning. Other crypto projects have done that plus way more, way quicker than Ethereum has because they're learning from the mistakes that have already been made. So the question is, will Ethereum be able to keep up and what's the word? Not suppress, but conquer these problems quick enough before the rest of the competition catches up and maybe even surpasses Ethereum. Because how much longer are we going to live in this world of just because it's ETH, we're just going to have to deal with that when there's better products lining up. And we all know that 99% crash is going to happen, and cryptos, the majority of them are going to disappear, just like the .com era. So is Ethereum going to be one of those that were great in its time, but didn't survive?
Before you guys answer that, just real quick, just a reminder, guys, make sure that you smash the likes. We got like 50 people in here. Thank you guys for being here. We love you guys. We thank you for spending your Saturday evening with us. Make sure that you follow MineUr.Biz and MrZombie here. Their information is down below the video. Do that. You're supporting the community. And then, as always, jump in, check out Danger Close Alpha, jump into our Discord. We got some big info coming out this week. We got some stuff going on with the artist that is freaking fantastic, and we are excited to announce. All right, so Seth, why don't you answer Miguel's question? What's this look like? Where's this headed?
Oh my gosh, that's a very broad question, and it's very deep too. I know Zombie is also like, crap. Like where do you start with that, right? Like, so it's hard to out EVM Ethereum, right? And the Ethereum virtual machine, that is the massive innovation that came out of the Ethereum core developers' work. And if we see nothing else from this most recent market cycle, in my mind, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, is that even though you had competing smart contract standards that were being proposed by certain like other entrants like Polkadot and like Cosmos Hub with the IBC ecosystem and like Solana, there have been some very clear problems too in these ecosystems. Like they haven't had the amount of stability that Ethereum has largely shown during that time. Ethereum has had its problems, right? It had its CryptoKitties moment, which like just a very, very unoptimized smart contract, like Zombie was saying. That's all it took. The core devs didn't do that. The miners didn't do that. The users sure as heck didn't ask for those gas fees. So that stuff just happens, and Ethereum is not the only one that is subject to these problems. An abusive smart contract is what ran Solana's its Italian tune-up right a few months ago, when it hit like 400,000 transactions per second briefly, and then had to restart its validator network. Just like, redlining. For anybody who's not familiar with what an Italian tune-up is, throw some petroleum distillates in your gas and gun it through the countryside. But that's what happened to Solana. Like we don't know how some of this stuff is going to work until it's really under stress. And Ethereum it's got more mileage with higher stress than any of these other smart contract networks. So I think this last run has kind of showed us that it's such a good idea that it's probably worth copying. So you got Binance Smart Chain, which immediately vampire attacked DeFi. And took at its peak, I think it topped like 25% of TVL for DeFi at its peak.
What do you mean by a vampire attack?
Suck the
Meaning
money
it said,
out of it.
Yeah, it latched on and was like, "Hi, no, if you loved using Uniswap during DeFi Summer 1, then check this out, right? DeFi Summer 2, EVM sidechain Boogaloo. Like we can do it too. Like check out what our chain does. It's a lot like Ethereum." And so you had the degen saying like, "Oh yeah, I just use MetaMask. I just change the RPC. I use MetaMask. Can find coin pairs. They've ported over some USDT and works the way I'm used to. This pancake swap thing isn't half
the exact
bad.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sucked right off the idea and said, "Hey, thank you very much. That'll feed what I need too."
Yes. So Avalanche did that. Polygon did that, and then some much smaller plays did that too. Random groups like Energy and others that use the same ecosystem. And so all of the smart contracts written in Solidity, the ERC standards of ERC 20, 721, 1155, some of these lesser used standards that are still very useful, fully portable. You can take your code, bring it over to their networks, and have lower fees. So I think this last run up has showed us Ethereum is, at least the EVM it's not perfect, but it's really good. Like it's really useful. So it's going to be hard to dethrone those standards that Ethereum has had in production for years now. And Solana's trying, and Polkadot's trying, and Cosmos Hub with IBC, they're trying. But bro, I looked at a GitHub repo for IBC, for the Cosmos Hub ecosystem, their whole interchain ecosystem for NFTs. They're not ready. I mean, I'm seeing pull requests that are like from a couple weeks ago talking about new NFT standards. And it's like, dude, people want NFTs now. They want marketplaces now. They want all this stuff to be in production and like production ready. So we're not worrying about like, IP attribution and setting up proper multi-sigs and having there be, split royalty contracts. And that kind of stuff is trivial in Ethereum. It's been handled for years. There's not a question mark around that stuff in Ethereum.
So at the end of the day, essentially what you're saying is Ethereum works. It does what it's supposed to do, but there's the majority of us don't truly understand what's happening. So the things that we're complaining about are actually not have anything to do with ETH. It's more, hey, it's the people that are using ETH. It's literally the driver behind the wheel of the car. It's like going into the dealership and saying, hey, this thing's brake sucks. And it's like, well, how have you been driving it? Well, I go from 0 to 60 and 60 to 0 every time I start the vehicle and get in, every single time. We're not effectively utilizing the network. But Miguel said something earlier, and I want to hear your take on this, Serge. Miguel said that ETH has a fundamental problem with scaling. It was set up that way. That's a reality, as Miguel put it. Is there an answer to this, and B, is this a reality, or is this kind of the same thing where people don't genuinely understand how to utilize it correctly to be able to get what they should be getting out of it?
So I think that both ETH is used incorrectly, and yes, it does have a scaling issue. So with all of the random, am I allowed to say poo coins? And just random NFT projects, that's an insane amount of transactions going on the Ethereum chain. If you took those out of rotation, that would fix 90% of Ethereum's gas problems, maybe even more than 90%. I was going to jump in on the comparison that you made of going 0 to 60 and then 60 to 0.
Yeah, hit it.
This is like going 0 to 60 and 60 to 0 with a car that is way past its max capacity and weight. We're dragging all of these poo coins and stupid, useless NFT projects and anything else that anybody can think of on these outdated, like ERC 721 contracts, right? And if these were like on the ERC, what is it,
1155, the containers?
1155, yeah, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to mess it up. If we were using the more optimized contracts, or even like came up with new contracts for the ERC 20 standard that are more efficient, that would cut down on the gas fees and the issues that we're having here and seeing here today. And I forgot what your original question was.
No, I was just asking about the scale. You answered it. I was asking about scaling, and then just basically like what this looks like. So Miguel, I see you getting ready to go ahead.
No, so my question is, right. So that's a great point, and I agree with both of you guys on that, right? If we do cut off some of this garbage, right? If we do optimize this stuff, it would be better. So why doesn't Ethereum put in a barrier to entry on the contracts that are being submitted onto the blockchain, right? Why is like, hey, here's the stamp of approval, here's the standard, right? It's got to be this or better. If not, like kind of like Apple, right? When you submit your app into the Apple store, Apple looks at it, says, hey, this doesn't meet the standards, out of here, right? And if it does, then you got approved.
I want to jump in first because MineUr.Biz looks like he's got a really good answer for it. It's because Ethereum is based around decentralization. Same reason why they went proof of work and have taken so long to get to proof of stake. Once you implement those barriers of entry, it's no longer as decentralized and as open to those that don't have access to it.
That's a good point.
You can do it. You can still keep it decentralized by it's just code, right? You're putting these laws into the code of it and saying, hey, these are the rules of the code. If the code doesn't match this or better, the code is not going right. We have ways to program code to look at other code.
And that's what these standards are for. So initially, like NFTs, they were proposed under the token standard of, let's say, ERC 20 tokens, and then they realized that it would be better if they made its own standards so that those images or these NFTs, as they call them now, would all abide to the same standards. So if we were to improve the standard of ERC 20 or ERC 721, then everybody would be essentially forced to use that, because places like Uniswap would not support the old ERC20 token, if that makes sense. You'd be able to migrate them to the new standard, etc.
Yeah, and there's already a bit of a natural disincentive to writing junk contracts, and that is the gas fee system. It's really that simple. If you're a commercial failure on the Ethereum network, retail leaves you alone, you die. And end of your project. So like on that note, like you can look at really high fees on Ethereum as potentially like a great feature, but it's only when Ethereum and the gas fees get really high, too high for our comfort in whatever market we live in, right? Like let's just say, gosh, think of a nice in between place to live. Like you live in a flyover state, right, where you can still buy a home for less than $100,000. Like your cost of living is such that you get forced to pay $150 for a transaction. It's obviously ridiculous.
One of the things that I have a problem with about people complaining about the gas fees so much. Now, let me put a caveat here. What I'm about to say doesn't work if you're trying to get in and mint an NFT right now. This doesn't work if you have to do whatever it is you have to do right now. But part of my problem is on just a regular basis. Yeah, it sucks not to be able to do something right this second. But if it's something that's not of like utter importance, Miguel, I think, has talked about this once before, but you can utilize the network at different times. I know that a lot of times we will do either late at night or like really early in the morning, and literally the gas fee at night at 7 p.m. Eastern will be $154, and then super late that night or early in the morning it's like $6. So there is an opportunity where it's not always like that, I guess is what I'm saying. And you can jump on, maybe one of you two guys knows the site. There's a site where it looks like a train, and it keeps basically showing all of the blocks getting filled up, and it shows all of the transactions, and then boom, a block's filled, and then the train takes off. You can see how busy the network is. Have you guys seen this?
I think I screen shared that with you guys a few weeks ago. It's called txstreet.com.
That might be it. And it really does. It shows, it says, hey, this is how busy things are. Okay, boom, bam, Sam. You can pull it up, look at it. Okay, if you've seen it a few times, you could theoretically say, yep, not going to try to process a transaction right now. It's pretty cool. I actually could pull it up. I'm going to show you guys real quick. So check this out. Maybe, hold on.
Yeah, what I like about it also, while you're pulling that up, is that you can do a direct comparison to a couple of other networks as well. It only supports Bitcoin, but L1 Bitcoin, and then Monero as well, which is hilarious because it's got this little visual representation of all the transactions, which is visualized like real data.
It's literally like the little Cartman. It's like, it looks like South Park, and they're all
click on one of those guys though. So
Nick,
click on one of those. Yeah, click on a character.
Okay.
That's a real transaction on chain. See how it says the hash right there? Click on the hash.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go down the rabbit hole here.
Did it take it off? Did it switch to a different screen? It did, didn't it? Hold on a second. Now I gotta switch to a different. Give me 1 second. Sorry. And then I clicked on that, and it, of course, because of how I have it set up, I don't want to show my whole freaking. Here we go. Okay, boom. Now the transaction details. It says, sorry, we're unable to locate this transaction hash. So, but the idea that didn't work for that one for whatever reason is that if we go into any one of these, if we're in here and we're on here, you can click on these different transactions and say, okay, well, hey, why is one character bigger than the other? Right? Oh, because it's a unit. It's like, well, why is one? Is it the size of the transaction? Like this says 0.1 ETH, but this has got a huge character, right? And then let's go to another one. You see what I'm saying? Like he's really big on the screen. Let's go to I'm just asking, like, does it mean something? Do you even know?
Oh, I'm sure that it does. I don't have their full like visual language mapped out. I don't know what that particular
here's the look at this
means.
one. Look at this one. Well, oh, I was trying to.
Maybe the bigger character just means that it's more inflated with gas than the other characters.
Here's a
if
little.
you want to see something crazy, also
OpenSea for a different. Look at this little naked guy. What is this?
It's a wrecked guy. That's actually the NFT. It's a wrecked guy NFT.
That's super dope, dude.
Dude, I'll bet that's paid placement.
That is freaking cool. Oh, you think?
I think so. I think that's actually part of their.
Here we go. Here's a ledger.
Series.
Oh, That switched me over there. Okay, never mind. That took me
that,
over to Oh yes, listen, look what just happened. Hold on, I'm going to show you guys just so that we're on the same page. I clicked on it looked like a little Ledger hardware wallet. Look what it did. It took me over to freaking Ledger. That's paid. They're doing paid ads through this service. They're saying, hey, if I run some transactions through, they're paying and putting that up there. That's wild.
Oh yeah. If you want to see TX Street, if you scroll down as well, there's also a line for the mempool of transactions that have too low a gas fee to be included into a block that's lined up anytime soon.
Oh, look at all these.
That's 75,000 plus transaction.
Poor They're all just sitting waiting to get their number called here. Look at this low fee line, over 75,000. And then if people are willing to pay more fees, they're getting up. Right,
it's like the fast lane in Disney World. You get the fast pass.
That's right. You pay
higher
for
gas fees.
That's right. You got to pay to play. You got to pay to play. So okay, that actually brings me to kind of my last question for you guys. You guys have done a great job explaining this. Is proof of stake where almost everything is headed? Let's say we have hiccups. We don't have hiccups. It goes perfect. It goes terribly. I think we all agree on here that ETH isn't going anywhere. Is long term is proof of stake, because I believe that proof of stake can be even more centralized than proof of work, because all I got to do is hold a whole bunch of ETH. Like I hold more ETH than Miguel does, for example, right now, right? Miguel holds more Bitcoin than I do, whatever the case may be. But the reality is, if we move to proof of stake, now I've got the ability to run more nodes than Miguel, which theoretically means I would have more power at a certain point. What I'm getting at is, and I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts on this are, is this where everything is headed? Is everything moving over to proof of stake because it's the narrative of being environmentally friendly, or is just the big dogs going to be utilizing that? And if so, like, does it make sense? Does it not make sense?
I think the current direction of the market and the most recent market cycle, the bull cycle, has shown that every new project that's launching it's been last cycle in the altcoin season of 2018, we saw 9 out of 10 new projects launching proof of work. This time around, as we're tapering into, off of altcoin season into what may be an extended bear or like finding bottom support for the market now, we're seeing 9 times out of 10 that new projects are launching with proof of stake models. And they're not using the Ethereum core devs model of Beacon Chain. I'll put it that way. Beacon Chain is probably the least forked EVM proof of stake chain. You're finding people copying BSC, Polygon, and Avalanche, but Polygon and Avalanche to a lesser extent, because they now have these programs where it's like basically it's like concierge blockchain services. Like they'll help you set up your blockchain using their tech and
concierge blockchain services. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
But that's going to be where the next few. I think the next trend is going to be a lot of these projects say like, look, we've got all these validators, we know how to do it. Just pay us an ongoing block subsidy forever, and
right.
and we'll set up your blockchain for you.
That's right. Serge, is this where we're headed? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? What do you think?
I think he pretty much nailed it. We'll see. The future's an interesting place.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, because let's be fair. Everyone has seen what the narratives that we see in the news, but then how does it actually play out? Solana gets absolutely tore up because they're having issues, or things are going down, or this, that, or the third. That doesn't necessarily mean, now I'm not a big Solana fan for sure. You guys know I love my ETH, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Solana is not going to make it. Right. It just means that we have a lot more to see as the future presses forward. We also have to figure out, hey, who's actually making the decisions? Like Miguel says, like the puppet masters in the background, who's actually pulling the strings here? Yeah. Miguel, when you say that, it's not a joke. I want to tell you guys, I was in an airport the other day and just got back from Charlotte, was down in Charlotte for a few days. And I was sitting next to and I'll kind of close it up with this. I was sitting next to a high profile banker. And I jokingly said to him, so you want to know now or later that I'm a crypto influencer? And he kind of chuckled and he was like, well, talk to me about that. So to make it quick, we had a really, good conversation. And I was actually really surprised at what he admitted openly to me. He openly admitted that he said, listen, the only reason that the banks talk trash about crypto, including my own bank, I won't even throw him out under the bus because he was such a nice guy, but including my own bank, Wells Fargo, including my own base, Wells Fargo, we are scared of what crypto represents. It does take the ball somewhat out of our court. So what are we doing to change that? Because that's where the conversation went. I said, wait a minute, though. You're not going to allow the ball to be taken out of your court. He said, no, we're not. He said, if you actually really look, he said, I, as a person that works for Wells Fargo, I'm not even allowed to touch crypto. Like, I'm physically not able to touch crypto. And I was like, are you serious? He said, no, but dive in deeper into what Wells Fargo is invested in. And guess what? Almost everything they're getting into right now is technology and blockchain related. And that should tell you something. We know this is where it's headed, but we want to do as much as we can to push back. And that's where I feel like I have the big problem with this, is that it's so much narrative driven. We know where the future is. We know where we're headed, but let's continue to push back because this could be dangerous for us. That should tell you what this is all about. And it actually wraps into ETH moving over. Yes. Dollars and cents, Satoshis, whatever denomination you want to put on this.
I thought you were an ETH maxi.
Gwei. Thank you, Zombie. Appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's like, hey, where am I making the money? How does that look for me as an individual and then us as companies? And so I hope that we're able to hash that out. Okay, nice. Sorry, working on my dad jokes. My daughter turns 1 tomorrow, so everybody drop a happy birthday in the chat. You guys saw her coming in earlier. She always comes in and says hello. So excited about that. How to drop a little dad joke. But yeah, Crypto fam, we love you guys. First of all, Zombie, MineUr.Biz, thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate you dropping some knowledge on us. Thank you guys. We will definitely have you on again. Seth, I know you're itching to come on for another What If Wednesday. I think you might have just touched on another topic, so we can chat about that as well. Just throwing it out there. But Crypto fam, we love you guys. We appreciate you for being here on a Saturday night. We understand you could be anywhere, but you are here. Make sure you follow Zombie. Make sure you follow MineUr.Biz. Make sure you are in our Discord. Make sure you're following us all the Twitters. Make sure you like the stream. We appreciate the love. Just remember to question everything.
Trust nothing.
And until next time, hodl
like a top.
We'll see you soon.